Embarking on a DIY adventure always begins with high hopes and a can-do attitude. The vision is clear, the instructions seem simple, and the end result is supposed to be stunning, a homemade piñata that will be the life of the party. Armed with glue, colorful tissue paper, and a balloon, there's a sense of excitement, maybe even a little overconfidence. The first step is to inflate the balloon. But of course, it decides to slip from your hands and whiz around the room like a rogue rocket, nearly knocking over a vase. After a brief chase, the balloon is finally secured. Slightly smaller than planned, but still usable. Optimism remains high. The next phase involves coating the balloon in layers of glue and paper. The instructions promise a sturdy shell, but reality delivers a sticky, lumpy mess. The glue drips down your hands and onto the table, and the tissue paper tears at the slightest touch. Undeterred, you slap on more layers, hoping that sheer quantity will compensate for lack of technique. The balloon now resembles a confused jellyfish more than a piñata, but you press on, convinced that it will look better once it dries. Hours pass, and it's time to pop the balloon. The moment is supposed to be satisfying, the shell hard and resilient, but the balloon deflates with a pitiful wheeze, leaving behind a saggy, deflated blob. The piñata's shape is less spherical and more abstract. You stare at it, wondering if modern art museums might appreciate its unique contours. Instead of feeling discouraged, you decide that creativity is all about improvisation. Decorating the piñata is the next challenge. You picture vibrant fringe, cascading colors, and a burst of personality. In reality, the tissue paper refuses to cooperate. It clings to your fingers, tears unevenly, and sticks to everything except the piñata. You try to create neat rows, but the end result is a patchwork of crumpled, mismatched colors. There's a moment of denial where you convince yourself that rustic is in, and perhaps your piñata is ahead of its time. But as you step back, the disappointment is overwhelming. It looks less like a festive centerpiece and more like a wounded alien. Determined not to give up, you attempt to fill the piñata with candy. The hole you cut is far too large, and the shell collapses inward, sending half the candies tumbling to the floor. The rest settle in the crevices of the piñata, which now sags under the weight. You try to patch the hole, but the tape refuses to stick, and the tissue paper shreds with every attempt. Frustration mounts, and the urge to shout feels almost irresistible. You let out a dramatic sigh, lamenting your lost dreams of DIY glory. The finishing touch is supposed to be a sturdy string for hanging the piñata. You tie the string carefully, only to watch in horror as the entire creation slips off and lands with a tragic splat. The piñata oozes glue and candy, resembling a failed science experiment more than a party decoration. You consider calling it piñata blob and passing it off as a deliberate joke. Despite the chaos and disappointment, there's a sense of pride in having tried. The DIY fail becomes a story to share, complete with exaggerated tales of tissue paper battles and glue catastrophes. The laughter that follows is genuine, and the memory of the piñata blob lingers as a reminder that creativity is messy, unpredictable, and often hilariously imperfect. In the end, it's the journey and the comedy of errors that makes DIY projects truly unforgettable.